So good morning. Welcome to those that have just joined the call. My name is Andy Bradley with Delta Energy and Environment. I can see more people just joining the webinar at the moment. So we're just about to start the webinar this morning. Good morning to everyone. Welcome to this Roadmap Service webinar, the future of the Italian heating market, an opportunity for low carbon technologies. My name is Andy Bradley from Delta. I'm Director of Business Development here at Delta, and I'll be hosting the webinar today along with my colleague Stephen Harkin.
Good morning, everybody.
We're delighted to have so many attendees join the webinar today, and we'll be starting the presentation now. We'd like to ask participants to please mute your phone if you haven't already done so to minimize background noise.
And on the right-hand side of your screen, you should see a little dialog box. And that allows you to submit questions during the webinar, which we'll pick up in the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So this presentation follows webinars earlier this year in which we compared the future of the German and UK heating markets and the future of the Dutch and the French heating markets. We got lots of questions generated throughout those sessions, so we really hope we can get a lot of dialogue going today. And today we'll be focusing on the Italian report from our roadmap service, looking at how that heating market will evolve out to 2025.
So now we'll begin the presentation. We're planning that the presentation will run for around 30 minutes. We'd certainly like to take a few questions during the presentation or at the end of the presentation. So we'll be finishing at the latest by around 10:15 UK time or 11:15 if you're on the mainland of Europe. So very briefly, for those that may not know us, I know there are a lot of our clients on the call today, but a few perhaps who are new to Delta. We're an energy research consulting firm specializing in heat and distributed energy. We specialize particularly in understanding the technologies, markets and policies highlighted in the demand circle in this diagram. Our core expertise is on the low carbon energy technology that are installed near the customer or at the point of demand. We offer clients market analysis, forecasting and support for strategy development. We also do a lot of competitor analysis. Energy companies and manufacturers across Europe are our core clients, and we also work with policymakers and the finance sector. And in terms of what we deliver, we provide clients with bespoke consultancy on particular topics or questions. We provide research services which are subscription-based, research services such as the roadmap service we're discussing today. And we also organise a small number of specialist invitation-only summits, the last of which was our Micro CHP Summit here in Edinburgh in June.
Okay, so now briefly on the plan for the webinar today. We'll start by giving a brief overview of the roadmap service, so explaining what the research service is, why we've developed it, and briefly touching on our approach to forecasting at Delta. We'll then set the scene for the Italian roadmap forecast by looking at the housing stock and the current heating markets in Italy. And this is an important starting point for our forecast. So we've now covered 5 European markets, 4 of which we've already discussed previously. But today we'll just focus on Italy. We'll then present some of the results from the roadmap service itself on the Italian market, focusing on one possible evolution of the heating appliance sales out to 2025, and exploring the interesting battle we see shaping up between electric technologies and low carbon gas technologies in Italy. We'll then touch on the opportunity that Italy represents for low carbon technology sales in the wider context of the European low carbon heating market. And we'll finish by summarising the next steps for this research and addressing some of the questions submitted during the session today. So please remember there is that chat function on the right hand side of your screen. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please don't be afraid to submit anything. So now a brief overview of the roadmap service and why we've developed it.
So the home energy market in Europe is entering a stage of transformation as different European countries look to find ways to decarbonise residential energy consumption. This is evident from discussions we've been having over the last years with the heating appliance manufacturers and utilities, many of whom we're helping to navigate what may be a transformational change in these markets. Our heating industry clients are increasingly asking questions on what will this change be, how will it impact their business in the next decade, and what can they do to continue to thrive in the heating industry.
And energy suppliers are increasingly recognizing that the traditional commodity supply model is weakening and coming under increasing threat, and that they need to develop and innovate new revenue streams to stay competitive as we shift towards a more decentralized, distributed energy world. So some of the key questions we're being asked include things like, which products and offerings should I be adding to my portfolio? When should I do this? What will happen to the sales of boilers out to 2025? Which technologies have the best opportunity? Where do these opportunities exist, etc. So that's a few of the questions we're being asked by the industry.
And we've done quite a number of consultancy projects for particular clients on these questions over recent years. And since 2 years ago, we developed the Pathways and Roadmap research services to allow us to have a structured info base that we can keep up to date and really give a current view to our clients on these questions. So to help answer these questions, we developed the Pathways tool, which you see on the left of your screen here, and the Roadmap service, which is summarized on the right. Pathways is an Excel-based tool that assesses the competitive positioning and addressable market potential of different home energy technologies across housing segments in each country. It combines all our data on technologies, policies, housing stock with a software front end that allows you to benchmark technologies, run sensitivities, and develop your own scenarios to understand the market opportunity for different technologies in the market.
And on the right-hand side, you can see the Roadmap service. And this is where we'll be drawing highlights from today. So the Roadmap service provides consulting analysis that presents product sales forecasts to 2025 for a range of different technologies. And it identifies the key battles between these different technologies and within key housing segments in the different countries we look at. And it also assesses the strategic implications of all of this for different players in the heating industry. We use the quantitative outputs from the Pathways tool and combine that with our deep understanding of European heating markets and with new research and analysis, particularly looking at the customers and the key drivers in these different markets to develop an evidence-based granular forecast for product sales. So these three offerings really allow us at Delta to approach forecasting in what we think is quite a unique and superior way to other approaches that we've seen out there, and it's one of the main reasons why our clients subscribe to this research. So we're able to combine our rigorous analysis of different technologies, looking across more than 20 technologies, how they compete in 54 different housing segments in each country, and combine that with many years of real-life experience of working in these countries and industries. So this really helps us get under the skin of how we think these markets will develop and why we've developed this research. So today we'll just focus on some of the outputs from the Italian analysis.
So that's the context of this research. So what have we done so far, Stephen?
So we've now completed this for 5 major European markets, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands and the UK, which together make up around half of the European boiler market, so just less than 4 million heating appliance sales per year. And this signifies the end of the first wave of countries that we wanted to cover. In the next year, we'll be planning to extend this research to cover more countries with the next key contenders, including Sweden, Spain, and Denmark. But again, those countries that we go into will be defined by feedback from the market and from our current subscribers. We currently cover 20 different technologies in the analysis. The key technology groups being electric heat pumps, so air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps. We look at hybrid technologies. We also cover low carbon gas technologies, so gas heat pumps, engine-based micro CHP fuel cells, and we also cover solar technologies. But this list of technologies it's dynamic, so we'll be continually evolving this, adding to it as we see new products coming to market or new opportunities opening up for different technologies in different countries. So some of the technologies we're considering to add this year are things like home energy management or smart heating controls, looking more at communal-based heating systems, so large boilers or district heating for many homes, and also things like batteries or storage solutions as well in combination with other technologies. And at the bottom of the slide there, you can see the pricing structure for the Pathways tool and the roadmap service. And we've structured it this way to really allow our clients to, I guess, pick and choose or tailor exactly what they want to subscribe to meet their individual and specific needs. And we have different price structures for one country or the 5 countries in the analysis.
So I hope that gives everyone an overview and an understanding of the structure of the research and the approach that we've taken. So now we'll move on to specifically talk about some of our new research on the Italian heating market.
Okay, thanks, Andy. So as I mentioned before, an important starting point for understanding the heating market in Italy and to building the forecast is to really look at the housing stock and how homes are currently heated in Italy. This chart at the top of the page illustrates the breakdown of the housing stock in the north of Italy. And we've decided to segment Italy into different regions. Really, this is the first country where we've done this to reflect the variation in different climatic zones. This is important as it influences the performance of different technologies and also influences the spread of thermal demands of the properties. And we've also segmented it this way to reflect the different mix of fuel types used to heat dwellings in the north and south of Italy. So on the y-axis we have the number of properties per housing segment, and each of the bars that you can see along the x-axis represents one housing segment. So in our analysis we have 54 different housing segments, and that allows us to forecast in a really granular way. So we break the housing stock in each country down into 3 different fuel types, so gas, oil and electric homes. You can see there we have a range of thermal demands for each of those fuel types, so ranging from very low and new build thermal demands right up to large heavy fuel users. And we consider new build properties separately. So you can see in the north of Italy, perhaps unsurprisingly, that homes with connections to the gas mains dominate the installed base. More than 80% of dwellings are connected to gas in the north, with only a few homes heated by oil or electricity. And this is interesting because it's typically the off-gas homes that have higher annual heating bills associated with more expensive fuels, which is particularly the case in Italy, where it's got one of the highest electricity prices in Europe. And it's these homes usually that represent the best or stronger opportunity for low-carbon technologies. So relatively few off-gas homes with low-cost boilers in the north of Italy does present some challenges for low-carbon uptake.
Stephen, there's a question here just from somebody asking if people on the webinar can get copies of the presentation. Yes, we will make the slides available. There will be details at the end of the presentation how we're proposing to do that.
And briefly on the bottom of the slide there, I've just illustrated the breakdown of the housing stock in the south of Italy. So quite different from the north. So it's similar in the sense that gas homes are the main type of properties in the south of Italy, but you can see there that the spread across oil and electric properties is bigger, and also that the thermal demand of properties in the south of Italy is skewed slightly more to the left-hand side, to the lower and mid-sized thermal demand properties. So understanding the housing stock in this way allows us to really identify where the opportunity for low-carbon sales lie and to identify the potential size of the prize. So one of our clients is already using this research to help them understand the opportunity for a new low-carbon product in the Italian market.
Stephen, there's a question here. When we talk of gas in the north of Italy, do we mean just natural gas or LPG?
So here we just cover natural gas. So it's the dominant fuel type. So that's what the housing stock looks like, but what does the annual heating market look like today in Italy? So this chart on the left-hand side illustrates the annual sales of heating appliances in Italy, broken down by gas boilers in blue, oil boilers in purple, electric in the green segment, and orange representing the other low-carbon technologies. Unsurprisingly, given the widespread availability of gas in Italy and the relatively low cost of gas boilers, gas dominates. But interestingly, already more than 10% of the annual appliance market is low carbon in Italy. So that's ahead of markets like the UK and Netherlands. And if we look at how this is broken down, this pie chart illustrates the spread of these technologies across the different low carbon technologies that we look at. And air-to-air heat pumps is by far the dominant low carbon technology being installed in Italy today. It's a relatively low cost technology option, and it's particularly common in the south of Italy where low capacity systems can be installed to meet the relatively low thermal demand. So again, reducing the cost of that technology. And already it's quite common in the south of Italy for air-to-air heat pumps to be installed to provide cooling demand in summer. So already it's quite a well-known and familiar technology in the south of Italy. We also illustrate that there's some air source heat pumps and biomass. We see these being more common in the central or northern parts of Italy, primarily by wealthy innovators installing these, and some people taking advantage of the tax credits available in the Italian market.
And perhaps, Stephen, just to clarify the groupings there, gas boiler, oil boiler, electric heating and other. So gas boiler is purely natural gas.
Yeah.
Oil boiler is heating oil and LPG.
Yeah.
So LPG is included within oil boiler.
Yeah.
Electric heating is?
So electric heating, I guess we define that as electric resistance heaters or electric radiators for the Italian market. So we don't look at electric boilers.
And other would be solid fuel or?
No, so other represents all the low carbon technology options.
Okay, thank you.
So that was what the Italian heating market looks like today. But how does Italy compare to other EU markets today? Is it far behind? Does it represent a weaker or a stronger opportunity? Well, Italy is actually quite an important market in the overall European context. It's the second biggest appliance heating market in Europe, with an overall market of around 1 million units per year. And it's also the second biggest gas boiler market, so just behind the UK, but ahead of Germany and France, with around 800,000 gas boiler sales per year. As I mentioned on the previous slide, it's already an interesting market for low carbon technologies. What could be a challenge though is the prevalence of gas in Italy and relatively low cost gas boilers, which could make it difficult for low carbon alternatives to compete and really gain strong sales out to 2025. But in terms of the overall size of the market, it's very big and represents quite an interesting opportunity for developers to certainly look at and explore. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, the price of gas boilers that customers are currently used to paying for or willing to pay for their heating system will potentially have a big influence on the uptake of the more expensive low carbon technologies in Italy. In all the countries we've looked at so far, the upfront cost is the #1 barrier to the uptake of low carbon technologies. So in this chart we illustrate the fully installed price that a homeowner pays to have their gas boiler replaced in each market. So this is the price for the boiler and includes the installation fee and VAT in each market. On the y-axis we have the fully installed cost in euros, and we plot the typical price for the 5 different countries illustrated on the x-axis. For each country we've plotted a range in prices, and this is really to reflect the variation in prices across different brands offered by different manufacturers and to reflect the variation in installation costs across the different markets. But here you can see that we've illustrated where Italy stands, and it's among the lower cost technology options, so not quite as cheap as the Netherlands, but certainly not far off it. So unlike in France and Germany, where customers are already used to paying quite a lot for their boilers, so 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 euros, and where the gap between those and low-carbon heating appliances is a bit smaller, this presents a bit more of a challenge in the Italian heating market. So with that summary of the current heating market, next we'll look at the summary of the forecast for the Italian heating market under one of the scenarios. For the roadmap service, we typically produce 3 different scenarios for each market. A reference scenario, which is what we think will happen, and a high and a low scenario around that, just to reflect some of the uncertainties around some of the policy incentives or customer uptake, etc. So that really gives us a high and a low scenarios, maybe what could happen, but to capture some of the uncertainties in each market. And to build these forecasts, we've considered many inputs and factors that will influence this uptake. So the key factors that we look at are the policy landscape, so looking at energy policy, support and incentives available for low-carbon technologies, building regulations. We also look at technology development, so considering the costs and performance of each technology and how these change out to 2025. We also look at the market push from utilities and manufacturers, so how committed or interested are they in these different markets. And finally, we look at customers, so both the homeowners and the installers, and how likely they could impact the market. So today we'll just show you the outputs from one of these scenarios. So this chart illustrates the shares of annual heating appliance sales in Italy today and out to 2025 under one scenario. So again here, blue represents gas boilers, purple represents oil and LPG boilers, the green represents electric heating systems, and orange, the gradually growing segment, represents the other, or the low carbon heating appliances. And in Italy, there's already a modest amount of low carbon technologies being sold, so around 12% of the market, with the majority of that being air-to-air heat pumps. By 2025, we expect the share of low carbon technologies to more than double to around 30% of the overall market. Some of this growth coming from a recovery in the new build market, which will be quite an important target sector for many developers of these technologies. And we expect gas boilers to take the biggest hit from the conventional heating systems. So we expect gas boiler sales to fall by just less than 100,000 units per year out to 2025. However, we do see many of those boilers being displaced by hybrid technologies or solutions such as boiler plus solar thermal. So the overall number of units of gas boilers sold we expect to fall slightly in this time frame. And there's a good number of low carbon technology options captured in that orange segment at the top, which will be competing quite closely for sales in Italy, and we'll look at that on the next slide. So what are the prospects for different low carbon technologies in Italy? This chart illustrates the annual sales of low carbon heating appliances in Italy out to 2025. Here at the bottom you can see some of the key technologies that we look at in this forecast. So in Italy, overall we expect the annual sales of low carbon appliances to almost triple from around 120,000 units today to over 300,000 units per year by 2025. And we see a lot of this growth in sales picking up after 2015, basically from the combination of building regulations on new builds tightening, and when we expect to start to see a recovery in the new build market, which is really struggling at the minute. So the recovery in this new build market will be key for growing the opportunity for sales in Italy, as the retrofit market offers a modest opportunity, but only room for small growth from today. And as you can see, in Italy, it's quite different from the other markets that we've looked at, where there's been one or two like standout technologies. In Italy, we see several technologies competing for around half of the market, with a wide range of technologies gaining sales of 5,000 to 10,000 units per year by 2025. And our subscribers use this research and modelling to help them explore how sensitive this opportunity is to different scenarios. So we're able to tweak like policy inputs, some of the incentives, energy prices, etc., to really see how the battle between these different technologies shapes up going forward. But now looking more closely at this interesting battle we see developing between electric technologies and low-carbon gas technologies. So on this slide we illustrate the growth of those different groups of technologies out to 2025. So the blue line at the top represents pure electric technologies, so air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, air-to-air heat pumps. And the purple line, the rapidly growing segment, represents the low-carbon gas technologies. So this includes gas heat pumps, micro CHP, fuel cells, hybrid technologies, and things like boiler plus solar thermal, boiler plus solar PV. And despite the market being dominated today by electric technologies, we only see a small opportunity for growth in that market out to 2025. Where we see the biggest opportunity for growth is among the low-carbon gas technologies. In particular, boiler plus solar thermal, primarily driven by regulations, will see very strong growth. But we also see a really interesting opportunity for gas heat pumps and the micro CHP technologies out to 2025. So it's quite interesting to see how electric's dominating today, but we do see a good opportunity and battle between the technologies by 2025. So what's going to drive this growth? Today, the main incentive supporting the uptake of low-carbon technologies is the tax credits. So this is similar to an upfront subsidy, but instead of receiving all the subsidy in the first year of the installation, it's spread over a 10-year time period. So it's a relatively popular choice today, but it doesn't quite overcome the barrier of the high upfront costs for low-carbon technologies, so it's not really igniting the market. This could be displaced by the new heat premium tariff, or the conto térmico, in the next few years, it's similar in structure to the tax credits, but it's designed to try and help alleviate that upfront cost barrier by paying the subsidy over 3 or 4 years instead of 10 years as the tax credits currently do. Another key driver will be the introduction of a heat pump specific electricity tariff. This will be particularly important in electric properties where fuel bills are already very, very high due to the high electricity prices in Italy. So the heat pump tariff is likely to offer an electricity retail price about 1/3 lower than that of standard electricity retail prices. So really helping heat pumps deliver significant fuel bill savings off gas and gain some traction in the on-gas markets as well. And finally, the new build market will be critical for realizing the opportunity for low carbon in Italy. Building regulations in Italy often follow that of Germany. So we expect things like boiler plus solar thermal or hybrid heat pumps to become quite common in new builds. But this opportunity really depends on the new build market, which is on its knees today, recovering in the next 3 to 4 years. So finally, I just wanted to illustrate the importance and potential impact the new build market in Italy will have on the opportunity. So this chart illustrates how the new build market in Italy has developed over the last 5-6 years. So you can see a really sharp fall in constructions following the financial crisis in 2007 and 8. And the market is really on its knees today. But saying that, in the past 3 and 6 months, there's been some positive signs that the amount of investment in the new build sector has been stabilizing and growing slightly. So we expect at least the market to not fall any further, but to stabilize in the next 2 or 3 years, and then to slowly recover out to 2020 and 2025. But we do expect that recovery to be slow and not to get to the pre-crisis levels. So we do think this will be, in combination with tightening building regulations, we do see this growth or the recovery in the new build market as a key opportunity for really realizing growth in low carbon technology sales.
Stephen, there's a question come in on that. I mean, the new build market is obviously important. How big a risk is it to the forecast you showed a couple of slides earlier? Is it a big risk, or is there upside to the forecast you presented?
Well, I think it's always a risk given the confidence and the economy in Italy. But we've taken quite a conservative view as to the rate of recovery in the Italian market. So in our high scenario, we've reflected a slightly bigger bounce back in the market. So I think there's always risk associated with it, but I think there's potential for, significant potential for upside to our forecast. So just with more homes being built and the tightening regulations, there could be significant upside to what I forecast.
So there's probably more upside than downside, do you think, to the forecast you presented today?
By 2025, I would say there's more upside. I think it's the next few years will be just really interesting period to watch how the new build market develops and stabilizes.
Okay, thanks.
So just in summary then for the Italian market, we think Italy represents, it's a modest but a challenging opportunity for low carbon technology sales. So it's certainly not the case that there's no opportunity. And in this scenario, we expect sales to almost triple to over 300,000 units per year by 2025. The strongest growth in sales will come from low carbon gas and hybrid technologies. By 2025, we expect that to rival the annual sales of the electric heating appliances, but that's where we see the most growth in the market coming from. And as we said on the last slide, the majority of this growth depends on a recovery in the new build sector. So potentially a bit of risk with this, but we do think there's a bit of upside potential certainly if the market bounces back more quickly than we anticipated. And finally, in the absence of substantial upfront incentives, we think the fuel savings delivered via the heat pump specific electricity tariff and more efficient gas appliances will be critical for delivering a growing low carbon technology market in Italy. So we've shown what the heating market in Italy looks like today and how we think it will develop under one of our scenarios out to 2025. But we thought it would be interesting just to finish on just having a quick look at how Italy fits into the wider European low carbon opportunity. So across the 5 markets that we've covered so far, so France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and the UK, we expect the gas boiler market across those 5 markets to fall by almost a quarter by 2025. And there'll be a wide range of technologies really competing and fighting for those sales. But interestingly, across Europe, we expect to see almost a 50-50 split in whether it's electric-based technologies or low-carbon gas technologies that will be successful in winning that market share. And Italy will be a key market for both groups, so both the electric technologies and the low-carbon gas technologies in 2025. So here the pie charts at the bottom illustrate where the sales of those technologies will be across the 5 different markets. You can see Italy there in the light blue segments of the pie charts, and it's a significant chunk for both sides. So maybe the second or third key market for both low carbon gas and for electric technologies. So while we expect Italy to be a challenging market, there are opportunities with some upside, and we expect it to be an important player in the overall European low carbon market going forward. And this is something that we'll be exploring a bit more in our next webinar, where we look across the European countries more widely and see which technologies really have the best opportunity there.
So thank you, Stephen. Stephen's discussed some of the key highlights from the Italian Roadmap Service report. Clearly, we're limited in how much detail we can share on the forecast on the open webinar today, but our subscribers already have access to all the detailed numbers of the forecasts. Before we address some of the questions submitted during the webinar, I've noted a few down, which we'll come back to. Would like to just give you a quick update on where we are with the service. So the Pathways tool and Roadmap service will grow to cover most of the key heating markets across Europe. We've already covered 5 key countries: Germany, UK, Netherlands, France, and Italy. We'll be looking to add new countries in our future research, and certainly in our next webinar that we have planned, we'll be presenting a view across Europe based on the research that we've done to date. So we'll be expanding the country coverage across Europe, as we go forward through the rest of this year and into 2015. The countries that we focus on will be influenced by our service subscribers and the feedback we have from webinars such as this. So if there are markets that you're particularly interested in us having a look at and developing forecasts for, then please do get in touch and let us know. We try and be very responsive to that kind of feedback. So in terms of one or two questions I noted as we went through there, Stephen, there was one question regarding slide 11, which was where you showed the heating appliance market in Europe, and you showed Italy in comparison to the other markets that we've looked at. Somebody's asked if those annual heating appliance sales numbers that you showed there are typical for the market, or are they just for 2012? So do they take into account the year-on-year fluctuation of boiler heating appliance sales in each of those markets, or are they just typical for each of those markets?
So it does reflect changes in the markets. So the slide that we showed illustrated the annual sales in 2012. So we continually track how the annual boiler sales, how the annual heating appliance sales changes in each of those countries. But that reflects our current view for the 2012 boiler market in each of those countries.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. And just a point of clarification for somebody who missed the answer earlier on. When we talk about gas, we mean just natural gas. So LPG is included within oil in our analysis. Another question here, Stephen. Towards the end, you were talking about Italy in comparison to some of the other markets we've looked at. I mean, do you think the Italian gas boiler market is under more or less pressure than other European markets that you've looked at?
Overall, I would say it's under slightly less pressure. So in other markets, we see quite strong growth and opportunities for electric, especially air source heat pump technologies. In Italy, we see, I guess, the main growth technology, the main competition coming from boiler plus solar thermal or hybrid technologies, so where a gas boiler is still part of the overall proposition. So we do expect total gas boiler sales to fall slightly, but it's under less pressure than some of the other countries that we've looked at.
Okay, great, thank you. And there's a question here on the condensing boiler prices that you showed. Somebody says that the condensing boiler manufacturer selling prices, I suppose we have to be very clear about what prices we're talking about, are still much lower in the UK than in Italy today. But in the chart that you showed, we showed the installed boiler prices in the UK look much bigger than in Italy. Do you think it's the same picture for the condensing boiler market?
I do. Well, I mean, the prices we showed there were in euros, so we converted, I guess, pound sterling to euros, which increases how the price looks against boilers in Italy. But yeah, that reflects, I guess, what we're hearing from manufacturers and installers as to what those prices look like in each country. So we're confident that we're comparing like for like for each of these markets.
But I mean, it'd be useful perhaps. I mean, what have you actually done to research the installed prices in each country?
So a mixture of things. So we speak to manufacturers to get a feeling for the manufacturer selling price to wholesalers and installers in each of the countries. We do research and speak with a lot of the installers in those markets. We're able to get our hands on some quotes for different installed prices. So yeah, we really try and capture the range of prices in the market, so breaking it down by the manufacturer selling price, distributor installer margins, installation costs across different markets. There's lots of ingredients there. But yeah, we continually test these with the markets, speak to the installers of those products to make sure that's the most up-to-date, accurate view.
Fantastic. Okay, a last couple of minutes, but perhaps one or two more questions. You mentioned at the beginning north of Italy and the south of Italy. You didn't present anything in terms of the forecasts, but do you see any differences between the north and south of Italy in terms of product sales and perhaps the type of products being sold?
Yeah, so I guess the most interesting difference in the north and south is, I guess, the share of sales that are electric heat pumps. Electric heat pumps are particularly attractive in the south of Italy, where you can install lower capacity systems where the performance is slightly higher than in the north due to the higher temperatures or the less variation in external temperatures in the south. So yeah, the main difference is the spread of electric heat pumps in the market. In the north, we see a stronger opportunity for the low carbon gas technologies where the thermal demands tend to be higher and where the gas connections are more widely spread.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. And final question about the heat pump tariff. You mentioned that as being potentially very significant or important trigger in Italy.
Yeah.
How important do you think that would be for heat pumps? Would it be enough to offset the high electricity prices that you see in Italy, for example?
It does. I mean, the heat pump tariff will make air source heat pumps very attractive against direct electric heating in Italy. So it will be very important for growing the opportunity of air source heat pumps, in particular in the off-gas segments. But it helps simplify slightly what is quite a complex electricity tariff arrangement in the Italian market, where the electricity prices charged are linked to the capacity of the electricity connection, so it's quite complex. But yeah, we think that could be a game changer for air source heat pumps in the off-gas segments in Italy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we'd better draw it to a close there because it's coming up to 1:15 hour. Thank you everyone for attending the webinar today. Somebody asked earlier on how to get a copy of the slides we presented today. We'd be very happy to share a copy of the slides we presented. Feel free to contact us, add contact details, Stephen on the left there, myself, Andy in the middle. Send us an email or give us a phone call. We'll be happy to share the slides with you. So if you'd like a copy, don't hesitate to get in touch. If you're interested in discussing the research and learning more about the roadmap research and pathways data, then feel free to get in touch. We're very happy to speak to you by phone, visit you, organise a webinar for you on an individual basis. But thank you all for your attention today. I see that everyone who joined the call has stayed right to the very end, which we always take as good feedback, so thank you for that. There are a few questions I see have come in which we haven't managed to address in the time, so we will try and respond to you individually on those. Hope you found the webinar valuable. We'd certainly be delighted to have your questions and feedback and have the opportunity to discuss it with you individually over future days and weeks. And thank you very much. I hope everyone has a productive day.
Thanks everybody.